I remember specifically because the first logo we had, or the first logo that Jack and I suggested, kind of looked sexual. You looked at it in a weird way, and I noticed that, so I'm like, we should do that. People are gonna give a shit.
So you picked this one, the current one?
Well, I mean, I guess I declined the first one, and then we got the second one. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
You hard veto the
Yeah.
Australia logo?
Yeah. I mean, League has always had an awful community, so does every online competitive game. Some worse than others. I think Overwatch has an even worse community than League does, at least in the US. I don't know about elsewhere. I've been to Europe and I've noticed their community in League is even worse than the US. And I don't understand Korean, but I've been told that that community is quite toxic as well. In League of Legends, that is. But the balance team of League is basically the best of any game I've ever played. They do make mistakes, and there's always, a lot of criticism about like certain things they do. Like people hate how they like remove old sign and make him a new champion, stuff like that. But overall, with the changes they do, I feel like they constantly keep the game fresh. They constantly keep it balanced. And I feel like they honestly just do an amazing job if I was like expecting them they exceed my expectations basically. Like even things that I thought were bad at times, like in retrospect, I realized were good. I don't have any specific examples for that kind of thing, but the most important thing a balanced team has to do is keep it interesting, keep it fun to play week to week, and they definitely do that without causing power creep and without causing any insane issues usually. Like sometimes there'll be some insane champion that shouldn't exist, like Zach at the moment, but they're pretty good at fixing that. China definitely has not grown as much as I expected. I really expected them to become dominant just because of the humongous player base and humongous influx of money there. They basically at the time had the largest player salaries of anywhere. They were able to get basically any talent they wanted, any infrastructure they wanted. They had these huge, amazing, bougie-looking places for their teams. But for whatever reason, they haven't developed, and I don't really understand why that is. I thought by now they would be on par with Korea. Like they would be like the top two regions. And to me, it still feels like Korea is tier 1, and then tier 2 is like everyone else. Like that, like China isn't like China's, they're good, but they're not like a tier above everyone else or anything like that. And I can't really give a good reason why. I have actually never been to China. I've never like seen how the teams operate or anything like that. So I can't give a good reason. I guess I've always kind of enjoyed like puzzles, and picks and bans is kind of like a puzzle. It's always just like thinking about the game, thinking about what you can do to get an advantage with just a bunch of different like puzzle pieces, basically, removing things that they can do and putting things together that make your comp good. And there's just all of these different things you have to take into account. And just analyzing that is always something I've really enjoyed doing. So it's something I spend a lot of time thinking about and a lot of time just, I don't know, focusing on.
Do you really need a notebook to do it?
No. Of course not.
Have you ever sold those?
No.
Lemon books?
No, I actually have all of my old. I believe I have every notebook I've used on LCS sitting in a box. I don't think I've lost any. Honestly, I don't really care about my legacy or my fame personally. I think it's something that is good to have in this kind of scene for this kind of job and everything like that. But personally, it's not something that I get any joy from, I guess. Like, I don't think that being famous is a better thing for a person than being not famous, if that makes sense. And I don't think I really care about having a legacy. Like, a lot of people care about, you know, like how they're perceived to a lot of other people. And I don't think that's very important personally. I think the older most players get, the less focused they get on playing League and the less obsessive they get about it. Like, they either, you know, get girlfriends, they get wives, they get like other hobbies, they just get other things to focus on, and League doesn't become a priority. Whereas for most teenagers, or not most teenagers, but the kind of teenagers who play League and go pro, they just obsessively play League every day of every hour. They get addicted to it. They will just think about it all day, completely commit. And it's hard to keep doing that as you get older, just because other things come up. Like, other things come up in your life, and you just also, after playing a game for like 5-10 years, some people will just get burned out. They'll want to move on to something else. You know, they want to get a different hobby or a different game to play. I don't think that age has much of an impact on your actual ability to play, like your ability to like mechanically play or things like that. I don't think that's much of an issue until much later in life. Like, I see in other sports, like, there are people playing into their 40s quite often. There are people, even in like StarCraft, who played in their 30s. So I think as long as pro players stay committed, I don't think their skills will degrade. It's just harder for pro players to actually stay committed.
For more League interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.